What's going on, guys? It's your boy the Markham Knight here. Today's video is going to be all about the Superman and Lois TV show. Very first episode did drop a couple of days ago, so I want to get into a quick recap, and then I'm going to give you my theories and review for the very first episode. So let's get started. Now in the recap, basically the first thing we start off with is an origin story for Superman, how he got to the planet and everything. We get to see him growing up as a kid. We see him deal with his dad's death. We also get to see him meet Lois and get married and have kids, and then he talks about his kids a little bit. One of the boys named Jonathan, and he's a lot more athletically inclined. He's good at football. He's actually going to be the captain of the football team and the quarterback. But the other one has anxiety and is a little more emotional, and he deals with things a little differently. So now in the present day, we get to see that Clark Kent gets fired because Morgan Edge has purchased the Daily Planet and he's making cuts, and Clark's job is one of those cuts. And to add insult to injury, Clark's mom passes away. His mom has a stroke, and then they go to the funeral, and at the funeral they learn that she was actually taking on a lot of money, and that they either have to decide to sell the home to the bank or they can try to make payments. So all in all, this is basically the story of Clark's relationship with his family and that dynamic with him being Superman and his responsibilities as Superman. So in this episode, we get to see Clark having to expose his secret to his children, and they get to know that their dad's Superman for the first time. And obviously the one who's a little more emotional and deals with anxiety and stuff, he struggles a little bit with this, and Clark says that he believes the athletic child to be the more one inclined to have powers, obviously because he's displayed a little more, not necessarily superpowers, but the fact that he's a freshman and he's the quarterback for a varsity football team in year one, something that was unprecedented, so they tend to be a little more inclined to that. Obviously the younger one didn't take it well, and then through a huge fight that happened, it actually turned out to be the one who was a little more emotional to be the one who had powers, and the one who was more athletically inclined didn't have any powers at all. Now that's the family dynamic part of it, and obviously Clark wants to deal with that part of his family and kind of help the little one, help the more less athletically inclined one to learn how to kind of hone his powers. But on the other front, we get to see Superman and a new threat. Now this new threat, not gonna lie, he looks like Master Chief in Halo, but he is pretty cool, and he ends up, spoiler alert, being Lex Luthor, or at least a Luthor. He's Captain Luthor, that's a Luthor, and he's from another world, and he knows that Superman is Kal-El, and how much of that he knows and how much information he knows in total is a little more open. But at the end of this episode, we get to see that Clark and Lois decide to stay in Smallville and raise their kids there because Clark thinks it would be a better setting for his kids. Anyways, so that's a very quick recap of the first episode. As for my review of the first episode, I thought it was hit and miss. I thought there were parts of it that were really, really good. I thought parts of it were kind of corny and a little cheesy, but I do feel like as a CW show, this is pretty much as good as it gets. It's kind of between this show and The Flash, where you get some of that little bit of drama, the CW drama, but at the same time you see enough of the Flash part of the story and enough of the Superman part of the story that keeps it really interesting. So it did definitely pique my interest. I will continue to be watching this regardless, but definitely I would say intrigued is probably the word I would use to describe my review of this episode. And I really, really liked his costumes. Those two suits that they had in this, the very first one that he said my mom made, looked amazing. And then the second one that they have is kind of a mix of the New 52 and a mix of, so it's a few things put together, mixed up together to kind of create that suit. And I think both of them look really, really good. I think it looks significantly better than how it looked in the Supergirl TV show. And it actually gives this Superman a little bit more girth. Now, my theories for this season and this show in its entirety is that this show looks to be completely separate from the Arrowverse. Not only did they not draw any connections to anything that was going on in the Arrowverse, but they didn't mention any of it throughout the history of Superman. And not only do they not reference it, but this is obviously a very different Lex Luthor. Now, if he did come from a different world, then that might be the reasoning why. But the fact that they have not mentioned anything throughout the history of Superman about everything that's gone on makes me kind of believe that this show might be separate from that. So it's too early to kind of give theories of what I think Luthor is and what he's going to be doing. I do think he's someone from a different universe. That's pretty much all I have on it so far. But in terms of actual theories of what's going to happen, I think it's more so about the dynamic between Superman and his sons and his wife and their relationship versus Superman being Superman. And I think that's kind of what's going to continue to develop throughout the season, and we're going to see a lot of villains and heroes and stuff like that throughout the whole thing. How much crossover there'll be, considering they have not mentioned anything with the Arrowverse, I don't necessarily know if there will be any crossovers. Maybe at least not in the first season. But I do feel like maybe this is the new direction they're going in, because the Arrow show ended, Supergirl's ending, Black Lightning's ending, and we don't know necessarily if the Legends of Tomorrow are going to have any more seasons left. But The Flash seems to be the only thing that's going to be running long term beyond this year and this season. But Superman and Lois might be the intro to a new, not necessarily Arrowverse, but another universe that is going to be taking place in. Anyways, guys, did you watch the episode? Did you like the episode? Tell me what you think.
This is the Markham Knight, and I need you to like, comment, and subscribe.